In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate how to catch an exception object, in this case the divide by zero object that we created in the last lesson. So here's our code that we've written so far. All we need now is some int main code that will cause the exception to be thrown. So we're going to declare a couple of numeric variables here. Then we'll simply prompt the user to enter a numerator. Then prompt the user to enter a denominator. Numbers 1 and number 2. Then we'll begin our try. And remember that we put a possible exception causing statement in a try, and then we'll have the catch part catch that exception. So where our exception could be thrown is in the quotient function call with number 1 and number 2. And we'll just have a cout statement to display the result. So there's our try. Now we're ready for the catch. And here's the tricky part. We need to declare in the catch argument a divide by zero, and we want to pass a reference to that object, and we'll call it except. That's going to store the exception object, the divide by zero exception object that is thrown when we try to divide by zero. Then to show the user the error, we call the except object and we call the what function. What returns the argument that we passed in up here when we call the constructor for our divide by zero exception object. So there's where the divide by zero exception message is displayed, and that's via the what function of our except object, which is simply a divide by zero object. And that's all we want our catch to do for this particular simple case, so we'll stop it here. So let's build and run. First time through, let's do a normal execution of the program to see that it works correctly. Now let's build and run again, or just run this time. We don't have to build. And this time we'll do 12 and 0. And we'll see that divide by zero exception occurs. And again, I can't emphasize enough that we want this exception to occur when we try to divide by zero so that the program doesn't crash. You never, ever, ever want a program to crash. You always want to try to handle exceptions in the program. And what we could have done, and we'll see this in the exercises at the end of the chapter, we could have this in a loop so that if a divide by zero exception occurs, we can give the user the opportunity to correct that by changing the denominator to a value other than 0. But this is how exceptions are caught. We catch an exception in a catch statement by passing in the exception object that we're looking for. And notice that we're looking for a particular exception. There are situations where we might have more than one exception to catch. For example, trying to open a file that doesn't exist, or trying to access an array element that's beyond the end of the array, called an out-of-bounds error, or out-of-bounds exception. There are situations where you have multiple catches that you can make. And in the next lesson, we're going to look at what's called a catch-all to catch all the exceptions that can occur in any given set of code or program statements. And we're going to see how to do that in the next lesson.